The holdup was right here, money. It costs $2,000 to equip a computer with the proper security program that police can safely use. Well, the Bevo community came up with that money, so this substation will open tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And as we zoom out, it's in a pretty unique location. You see the sign right above me. We are at the Bosnian Chamber of Commerce. It is the chamber that actually donated the space right upstairs for police to use. The chief answering every single question that was thrown at him by aldermen. And here's the thing, everyone on this public safety meeting and the chief agree, yes, the city could use a lot more police officers. After all, crime is way up, homicides are up, but the hang up is how to pay for those officers. For every $4 the feds give Missouri to go to road projects, Missourians are expected to pay $1. She tells me that ratio looks very bleak if this gas tax does not pass. The court staff was working too closely with both the police chief and the city prosecutor, so there was a conflict of interest. And speaking of interest, if you are interested in how city government works, especially here in Ferguson, after all the changes, then you can come right here to Ferguson City Hall tonight. There's a council meeting at 7 o'clock, and of course it is open to the public. I did just have a chance to speak with police again. They tell me that baby was in the back seat, just feet away from where that victim was shot multiple times. To put this into some perspective on the urgency for this, since Chief Dotson first threw out this idea of 160 more officers, until now, there have been 101 people murdered in the city of St. Louis. Know this as the Bosnian Chamber of Commerce, but it's about to double as a police substation that opens tomorrow. I'll explain exactly where we are and why this is so important for so many people here in South St. Louis, coming up in 15 minutes. When I was doing research for this story, I found some interesting things. I found out that MoDOT maintains 34,000 miles of roads and 10,000 bridges across Missouri. That is the 7th largest state highway system in the entire country. But get this, Missouri ranks in the bottom 4. They come in at number 46, and how much money is brought in for those road projects. The punches just keep on coming. That is because the state's highest court is now accusing court staff here, also the prosecutor and the former police chief, of all being too closely linked. And she has a reason to be concerned. She lives in Gravois Park. That specific neighborhood has had an uptick in robberies, 75% in fact, and police have identified that neighborhood as one of the neighborhoods in the city to do hotspot policing right now. Keep in mind, when police do that, it is officers from that district who just focus on a specific area. It's not like there are a lot of police officers on standby ready to come in. As for Police Chief Sam Dotson, he was grilled last Thursday by several aldermen about redistricting and hotspot policing, but he says this is the way that the city does business now. Many of you agree with Police Chief Sam Dotson that there needs to be more police officers right here on the streets of St. Louis, but it's actually up to the people who work inside City Hall to figure out how to pay for those new officers. And there's a big meeting about just that later today. The details coming up next.
So our Laura Hettiger spent hours yesterday talking to lawmakers and researching some hot topics. Laura, what's the rest of the week looking like?
Well, Emily, we have to imagine that representatives and senators are getting ready for work right now. They will be going to their offices in Jeff City this morning. And when they finally have a chance to sit down at their desk, maybe drink their morning coffee, they will already be up against the clock because they still have 3 major issues looming: right to work, the gas tax, and also the voter ID bill. Now, the Senate made major progress on right to work yesterday. They did pass a measure that moves on to the House today. It bans workplace contracts where union fees are collected from non-members. According to lawmakers I spoke with, that will most likely take up the rest of the time, meaning there's a good chance there will not be any time to push through a gas tax. That's not good news for MoDOT officials. They tell me without more money, it'll be very hard to plan any long-term projects.
We do a 5-year construction program. We look at it 5 years at a time. And when we're looking out to 2017, that's the point where we don't think we'll be able to match all of the federal funds anymore.
And funding for roads is such a big deal for all of you watching, for all of you who drive here in Missouri. The News 4 will continue to follow this for all of you. And speaking about the voter ID bill, the senator I talked to says same thing. There's probably just not enough time to get anything on that done in this session. Keep in mind, the next time lawmakers will be together in Jeff City will be in September for the fall veto session. Reporting downtown, Laura Hettiger, News 4.
Bommarito Street Fleet outside the new police substation. Laura, it's been a long time coming.
It sure has, Emily, and this is actually the last morning that there will not be a police officer working out of this building. This officially opens tomorrow. But as we zoom out a little bit, this doesn't look like a typical police substation, because check out where we are. We are at the Bosnian Chamber of Commerce, and the people who work out of this building have donated free of charge the space upstairs for police officers to work out of in this neighborhood. And as you mentioned, a long time coming. Of course, many of you remember what happened here in November. Here's some crime scene video from then. It is near Gravois and Itasca. That's very close to where I'm standing right now. That is when a 32-year-old Bosnian man was brutally beaten to death, allegedly by 3 teens. In fact, just this week we found out all 3 teens have been charged in his murder. A couple weeks after that attack, police announced they would open a substation in the area. I talked to the alderwoman about it this week. She says after months of planning and working, it will officially open tomorrow morning.
It gives the community a better fit with the police department, interfacing with the police department, and provides a level of comfort that the people feel as though or are aware of, that they always have that draw in the neighborhood.
And comfort is definitely needed, because I did go through the crime statistics for the Bevo Mill neighborhood this year. I can tell you, since the start of this year, there have been 4 homicides. Up until that deadly hammer attack in November of last year, there had not been any in all of 2014. So you can definitely see the most violent crime is very much on the rise. But despite the killings that have happened in the last 4 months, it took nearly 6 months to get to the point that we are at right now. I'll explain what the big holdup was coming up in my next report in an hour. Reporting live in the Bevo Mill neighborhood, Laura Hettiger, News 4.
News 4 at 6.
We've been asking viewers about different ways to end violence in St. Louis. One of the ways the St. Louis PD have been attacking crime is by redistricting the city. Some aldermen telling us they want to go back to 9 districts instead of 6 and add more police officers. News 4 this morning's Laura Hettiger has more on the tactic you'll only see on News 4.
See less police, like a lot less policemen.
That's the reaction of some St. Louisans when asked what they think about redistricting. It's the policy Police Chief Sam Dotson implemented 15 months ago to even out resources across the city.
We're policing each district in each part of the city exactly the same, giving them the resources they need. They have the same amount of calls for service, the same amount of crime, and the same number of officers. We hope that will be able to bring down crime even further.
But it has not brought down crime. According to the latest St. Louis City Police crime statistics, crime is up in nearly every category: homicide, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, and car thefts. And according to people like Marilyn Strickland, it has brought up something else: fear.
It's getting scary out here, it really is.
So where does Chief Dotson go from here? He says hotspot policing will continue, meaning when there's an uptick in violence in a specific area, there will be an uptick in police patrols. He also says splitting the city into 6 districts instead of 9 was the right thing to do, even if some aldermen are still split on the idea.
Now the results are in, and it looks like that has not worked very well.
Laura Hettiger, News 4.